Hey everybody, welcome back for this week's installment of What Does the Fox Say? I'm your host, Adam Fox. I want to provide some updates on the budget reconciliation process in Congress and potential cuts to Medicaid. What we know right now is today, Republicans had been planning to start going through the markup process for these cuts in the Energy and Commerce Committee. They are not doing that today because they have delayed it at least until next week. There's potential that there could be further delays, which means our advocacy is working to protect Medicaid for the millions of Americans who need it. What I also want to talk a little bit about today is one of the ways that they are trying to attack Medicaid and make substantial cuts is really, it's almost ACA repeal 2.0. They are looking at undoing Medicaid expansion that was part of the Affordable Care Act passed in 2010. And this covers over 20 million Americans at least. And in Colorado, we're talking almost 400,000 Coloradans who are covered through Medicaid expansion. They're looking at essentially ways to cut how much they are sending to states for Medicaid expansion. And essentially, they're making the argument that the amount that is going to the states is unfair. The states should have to pay more. But that's not the way the legislation was created in the Affordable Care Act. That's not the reality. And that's sort of pulling the rug out from under states and the people who need Medicaid coverage. What it would end up doing is if they make these cuts, and they're approaching this a few different ways, but if they make cuts to the expansion, most states will not be able to sustain the expansion population. And so those 20 million Americans are very likely to lose coverage. And that is particularly true here in Colorado because we have the Taxpayer Bill of Rights, or TABOR, which strictly limits how much money we can have in our state budget for things like Medicaid. And Medicaid is a huge portion of our state budget. But without sort of the federal dollars, or with substantial reductions in those federal dollars, there's pretty much no way that Colorado can sustain Medicaid expansion. So this is starting to shape up like ACA repeal 2.0, unfortunately. It's not surprising in many respects, but what this means will still be terminating coverage for hundreds of thousands of Coloradans and millions of Americans across the country. There are 40 states that have expanded Medicaid, 10 that have not. All but one of those states is arguably a very Republican state that hasn't expanded Medicaid, but there are a number of Republican states that have expanded Medicaid as well. And those states have some of the highest Medicaid expansion enrollment. So this is going to hit hard across the country, no matter what. So our advocacy is working to slow down the process, and we have the potential to stop this. So please keep calling your members of Congress. Again, if you or a family member has a Medicaid story, please share it with us. We can help amplify it, and those stories are really important to reach our members of Congress and help them understand the devastating impact that this will have on Coloradans directly, as well as our healthcare system and our economy. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you next week from DC. Thanks.